This is the Plagmanrules Podcast. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Monday edition. Today is Monday, August 28th, and we have three topics to discuss today. Of course, we talk about what happened at the weekend box office, or lack thereof in this case for this weekend. Also, we'll talk about the passing of Tobe Hooper, famous film director, of course. Mention a couple of his films. And I'll also have a review today. We're going to talk about Wind River, which was a film I saw over the weekend. All right, so let's get right into the box office first here. Okay, so the top of the box office charts was a repeat from last week. The Hitman's Bodyguard repeated at number one, down about 53%, so made about another $10 million this weekend for a total of about $40 million now here in the States. The production budget's about $30 million on this one, roughly double that to get to the total cost, because I think the marketing was probably closer to about the production budget there. So it's got a little bit of room left to grow here before it actually becomes profitable for the studio. Otherwise, not a whole lot going on this weekend. I mean, the Mayweather-McGregor fight kind of took out a lot of the steam from the box office. So we had three films that were new this weekend. Leap was the best of the newcomers, only got about $5 million this weekend. It came in third place. We've also got Birth of the Dragon, that was in ninth place with about $2.5 million. Now, as far as how are these films doing as far as what the projections were, Leap was projected to get about $5 million, so that was on target. Birth of the Dragon was also about $2.5 million, so that's on target. But way below target was All Saints, which is another kind of faith-based movie here that was released this weekend. Only $1.5 million. It was only playing at about 850 theaters, so it wasn't like it was going to get a huge release here or anything. But still, that one projected to get probably closer to $4 million. From some sites were saying closer to $4 million. So that's a really bad opening for that movie, especially when we consider films like War Room and God Is Not Dead, at least the first one. Those kind of faith-based films, those really did well at the box office, but this one is a case of not doing well at the box office. We had a limited film, Wind River, that entered the top 5 this weekend. That was in fourth place with another $4 million. That has now expanded to over 2,000 theaters and wide release, and I did see that one, so yep, I'll have a review for that one coming up actually later today. Yeah, kind of like I said here, there's not a whole lot going on at the box office this weekend. Again, that big kind of sparring fight there between those two behemoths, which, you know, I don't really watch boxing or whatever, because I think one of them's a boxer, the other one's something else, but whatever. I was kind of saddened to hear, though, that on Saturday that we lost one of the better directors in the retrospect of recent horror movies, and that's Tobe Hooper. Now, of course, the guy got his start, basically, and got himself a name with the first movie in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, of course, and that has remained, I think, one of the best horror films ever made. I mean, just rewatching it today, it's close to 45 years later, and there's still elements of that movie that just creep me out. I mean, really some disturbing content in that movie. A couple other films of his that people talk about all the time, like The Funhouse was kind of like his little slasher movie he did in the early 80s. Of course, Poltergeist in 82 has remained another kind of big horror classic. That one, though, you know, there's always kind of this battle that goes on still 35 years later of, well, did Spielberg kind of really direct that, or was it Tobe Hooper? Well, either way, you know, Hooper was there. Invaders from Mars was a remake from a 50s kind of sci-fi horror movie, and I haven't seen that one, but I think a lot of people have said that one's one to watch. And of course, he did the second movie in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. That one was more of a comedy. I mean, if you watch it, even like a couple clips on YouTube, you'll see that Dennis Hopper's the star, and he pretty much goes freaking nuts throughout the whole movie, like battling Leatherface with another chainsaw in the final minutes. It's a bizarre movie, but definitely showed that the guy had a lot of range. And speaking of range, he also did a couple really noticeable things on television as well. First of all, directed a few episodes of Tales from the Crypt. He directed the pilot episode of Freddy's Nightmares, which was, of course, the Nightmare on Elm Street takeoff series on that, and the miniseries of Salem's Lot, based on the Stephen King novel. Now, I've seen that. There was, I think, a shortened version of it or something I caught on VHS I don't know, a few years ago. Don't really remember it being all that great, but something worth mentioning there. And of course, famously, he also did, and I didn't know this until after he had passed, he directed the music video for Billy Idol's Dancing with Myself. Now, I did not know that. Actually, I've never seen the music video, but that's something I had no idea he did that. So, you know, the guy really had a lot going on in his career. Again, he mainly stuck with horror movies. It's not like Wes Craven a couple years ago, we lost him. You know, and he would do, again, mostly horror films, but he'd also do, like, Meryl Streep movies. He did one of those, and she actually got an Oscar nomination for it. So, he kind of branched out a little bit from time to time. And Tobe Hooper, again, for the most part, was in the horror genre, but then he'll kind of branch out every once in a while. So it was kind of sad to hear of his passing there, and he'll definitely be missed. All right, well, we're kind of getting toward the end here again today, but again, here's a review. Haven't had a review here in a while. Wind River. Taylor Sheridan has become the next great filmmaker to follow. After writing the script for Sicario and his Oscar-nominated work on Hell or High Water, he followed those up with his first effort at both directing and writing with Wind River. And for me personally, while I thought Sicario was one of the more tense movies of that year, and Hell or High Water was multi-nominated last year for many categories, and one of the best of the year regardless, Wind River surpasses both of them by taking the best elements of both films, the quippy, memorable characters and dialogue from Hell or High Water, and the ever-building tension of Sicario into a package that really delivers. Wind River follows Corey Lambert, a hunter who lives near the Wind River Native American Reservation, who is called out to kill a mountain lion who is killing cattle. As a storm arrives, Lambert finds not a lion, but a corpse, that of Natalie, a friend of his deceased daughters. FBI agent Jane Banner is called in from Las Vegas to help local authorities in the case. A relatively inexperienced agent, Banner immediately turns to Lambert, who willingly lends himself to helping her and the tribal police chief Ben track down those responsible for Natalie's death. While the story in the movie isn't anything extraordinary, I can say that the characters in the movie are. First off, Lambert is a fully realized character as portrayed by Jeremy Renner in a winning performance that should be thought of come Oscar time. Probably the best of his career while I'm at it. Also good is Elizabeth Olsen as Banner, and it's nice to see these two MCU actors getting a break and working together on a thriller like this one. Also, wonderful job by Graham Greene, who is always a pleasure to see on screen as Ben. Even John Bernthal, who only gets one scene, does a nice job of establishing a character who we remember. Also, Gil Birmingham, whose role in Hell or High Water as Jeff Bridges' long-suffering partner, is given a smaller role here as Natalie's father, but gives just as impressive a performance as the last film. Again, just a couple of scenes is all he gets, but he makes the most of them. Undoubtedly, the film's two greatest strengths, I've alluded to them, are the script and the tension. Almost from the get, Sheridan has a keen eye for shots and scenarios that make us wonder what's going to happen next. Whether it's just a scene-setting shot of the landscape or a door getting ready to be opened, we get the tension that what we cut to next might just be a disaster for our characters. I have to say, if you're interested in seeing this movie, please do so while it's in theater. Don't wait for it on DVD or Redbox. The in-theater sound that fills the whole auditorium helps the movie. Without it, the small screen sound won't give you the same experience. So I've talked about all this, but what'll stick with me for the movie is the dialogue. Whether it's Corey saying, "Luck don't live out here," or Ben saying, "We have to drive 50 miles around to go 5. Welcome to Wyoming." Sheridan has indeed proved with his last 3 scripts that he's a filmmaker to look out for. Hopefully he is indeed rewarded for his work here. Really, the only complaint one can have about the film is that the story doesn't have enough characters or plot developments to make it into a full-fledged mystery. Yet, I don't think that's what Sheridan is going for here. No, he's just telling a story that's based around actual events, as we learned from the opening, and I think he turns that into a strength. As we learned from an end title card, any Native American that goes missing are not included in national surveys, so there's no way of knowing just how many teens, women, and children from the Native American community that are missing. That's shocking for one, but also a point that exonerates a potential pitfall. The fact that Banner continually turns to Lambert and the lesser authorities despite her being above them as an FBI agent. I've heard many complain that Sheridan leaves Banner to be a character that has to be mansplained to, but he gets around this first with the knowledge of Banner being out of her element. She says in the film that she was born in Fort Lauderdale and is stationed in Las Vegas, yet the film is set in Wyoming. Also, it's a statement about how the government to this day treats Native Americans. They're pretty insensitive. They don't care if a newbie goes on the job, and again, the end title card about those stats of the missing Native Americans really brings that home. There have already been many spectacular films this year so far, some of them being ones that I might mark up to be in the competition for best films of the decade, and this one goes right there. Wind River takes the positive of Taylor Sheridan's latest works and puts them in a blender, and reminiscent of Quentin Tarantino, who, in my opinion, made a wonderful western with Django Unchained, then took the strengths of that film and perfected them as best he could in The Hateful Eight. This is one of the better things I like to see out of filmmaking. A director, or in this case, a writer-director, taking his or her craft to the next level by realizing you've gotten things right and taking them even further next time. I seriously can't wait to see what this guy's got coming out next. If Wind River's any sign, it'll be amazing. My rating is a 10 out of 10. So yeah, I really love this one. Again, there is some kind of darker elements here, so just so you know, it is R-rated and everything, so don't take the kids to it. But it's really a really great movie, and I hope it is considered when we get closer to Oscar time. By the way, I'm going to do a little plug here. I will be uploading later this week a video, and it's Oscars at a Glance, the pure speculation stage. We try to do that every year here on the channel, and this one is an actual video where you'll actually see me talking about stuff. It's not just going to be audio only, and that will be going up around September 1st. Don't know my plans yet. I might actually be leaving for a vacation the day before Labor Day weekend starts, like on Thursday or something. I might have to upload it on August 31st, so I think I explained that a little bit in the video too. So just so you know, I know a lot of people who watch the channel really like to get into the Oscar discussions and stuff, so that will be coming up later this week, either going up on Thursday or Friday. Okay, also, while we're talking about some stuff here, if you have a suggestion or something you think could help the podcast, something you like about it, something you don't like about it, you can go ahead and leave a comment here on YouTube. Otherwise, I do have a Gmail account set up, and that's Plagmanrules Podcast at gmail.com. That's Plagmanrules Podcast at gmail.com. You can leave any suggestions there as well. Also, if there's a topic or something that I missed in movie news or something exciting that you're like, hey, why haven't you talked about this yet? Go ahead and you can leave a comment again here on YouTube or leave a message on that Gmail account. All right, so I'll do something for, we usually do it on Mondays and Fridays here for the Plagmanrules Podcast. I'll try to have something up for this Friday, depending on the time frame and everything. I might not get to it, and it's very likely that we're going to skip next Monday in observance of Labor Day. I doubt I'm going to be back in time to do the show. Could still happen, no promises, just kind of a little pointer there. So if you don't see a new episode of the podcast going up on Friday or Monday, that's why, because it is Labor Day weekend and I'll actually be away. Until next time, this has been the Plagmanrules Podcast.